Hey, welcome to this episode of Creative Audio Production. This time we'll be talking to Jake Harrison, a local artist, and I would like you to hear some of the sounds that Jake is creating, and then we'll talk about how he goes about getting those sounds. All right, welcome to Creative Audio Production. This is my first time in front of the camera we're mixing it up a little. Usually I just hide, I do screen capture stuff, but this is me. This is what I look like. So at Creative Audio Production, we're just trying to encourage you as creative individuals. You know, with our different recording software, we have access to all the same tools, but trying to think of using our minds to do interesting, weird, fun things with it. We've talked a lot about virtual instruments and reamping. We did a TalkBox shootout this last time. But today I wanted to kind of put something in your thoughts in terms of doing something interesting and new. You know, if you do a lot of silent stuff, virtual synths, this might be a whole new arena for you to play in that I think you're going to enjoy. So I've asked my friend Jake here. Jake, can you just say a little bit about yourself? Maybe we can start with that.
My name's Jake Harrison. I'm going to be graduating from UC Denver super soon here. The last 6 months I've been doing, some found sound production, which is what I'm going to be talking about today. And I've been a long-time musician, pianist, guitarist, and I'm kind of new to the electronic scene. This is kind of the first foray into it.
Oh, great. Excellent. Yeah, so we're talking about found sound today, and I asked Jake to come in because he played some of his found sound composition. So when we say found sound, what is that, Jake?
Found sound to me is taking sources that typically are non-musical and making them somewhat musical. And I think we all have a little bit of experience of this as kids beating on pots and pans, and we hear this somewhat in music. But I was trying to take it a little bit further and make it more of a pleasing aesthetic and less of an industrial one that we normally hear it in. Normally found sound has a kind of chains and dumpsters and machinery connotation, at least to me. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to take it into a nicer, more pleasing place.
Great. When I was in college, there was a band, I may have told you this, there was a band that, and this was back, it's many, many, many moons ago. This is like pre-computer music. What they would do was, if they had a gig on a Friday night at 7 o'clock, they would go dumpster diving at 5 o'clock. And the instruments they found in the dumpsters all around Dallas those were the instruments for the show. So that was the grandfather of found sound.
Yeah.
That's where it all started. And what do you typically record? Are you grabbing samples off the internet? Or are you walking around with your iPhone? Or is it a dedicated stereo recorder?
I use a Zoom H4n. I've used some samples off the internet, but I like using my own stuff. So yeah, I'll just walk around and keep it in my bag. If I'm hearing anything interesting, I'll take a recording of it. Or it's really fun. Just call up a buddy like, hey, let's go walk around and kick dumpsters and stomp cans and smash ice and record it.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think a cell phone would be good enough quality for some of this?
Some of the sounds on my album are done with one of my friend's iPhones. It is, it's a little bit harder. You can't pump the gain as much because they're a little bit noisier preamps. But if you have good isolation on the recording and it's a nice loud sound, you can do it. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. As you got into this, did you have some influences? What made you get into this and it's found sound? And did you find other artists that you started trying to model? Or
I've always liked the big sampling artists that will take bits of other songs and rework those into their own compositions. And for me, I like that idea, but took music business class, and I'm afraid of sampling now. And I was just like, I want to do it on my own. I want to have it like all be me. And then through digital music technique, a class at UCD, we did a lot of of how to use a sampler, and I was like, this is really cool and interesting. And you can get things that sound almost synthetic, but are completely genuine. And there was a section in that class where we go through and talk about famous synthesizers, and you go through all these songs from the 80s and the 90s that are like, yo, yeah, that's patch 4 from this synthesizer. And to me, that was a little bit disappointing, I wanted to, make something a little more unique, a little more, maybe not, like, perfect. I didn't want everything to sound, like, synthetic. I wanted to be a little more raw, a little more original, a little more organic. And so that was kind of the inspiration for this project is taking everything I love about electronic music and making it feel more human without doing kind of just what most people do, is just sing over it. And that's a great way to make it seem more human, but it felt like there's more that could be done there.
Yeah, I think there's power when you blend something organic with something synthetic, and I think people can hear both those aspects of it, and I think that's draws in the listener. I think you're onto something there. When I heard your song, I loved it, and I quickly wondered, how many Jakes are there out there? Did you find that there's an online foundsoundsareus.com or some kind of community to share tricks and tracks?
It's a little more veiled than foundsoundsareus.com, but it is out there. I frequent kind of the normal hubs, all of the Reddits of EDM producers and We Are the Music Makers and like Pro Tools 1 and Reason 1, because I do the Reason, and I didn't find anything that was specifically a hub for Found Sounds. There are several YouTubers out there that do really great jobs going into the one, I forget the name of the one you showed me, but that one.
Diego Stocco?
Yeah.
Is that him? He goes into the dry cleaners and
There's some cool people that do that. Bauer just did the Harlem Shake guy. Just did Red Bull sponsored him to take a trip around the world and take cool samples. And so he did a little bit of the Found Sound stuff. Most of his stuff was kind of these exotic instruments that you don't normally hear though. Right. So, and it's kind of on the cusp of all these things. You'll see in sample packs, I got a really big one from Propellerhead recently that had like a big Found Sound section in it, and it was like, the pack wasn't specifically that, but it was kind of cool, like digging through it, like, oh, there's some Found Sound stuff in here. There's some unconventional percussion, and a lot of it is percussion. There's not as much harmonic stuff and instruments, and my goal starting the project was to make way more of those, and I kind of realized why there's not more is because they are pretty difficult to get sounding good.
Sure.
So once I did have ones that sounded good, I used them a lot.
Yeah. So if our listeners and viewers want to try their hand at this, is there any tips you have if they just maybe only have their cell phone and they want to go out and try this? What would you do?
I would say watching your gain staging and your isolation are absolutely key. If you can get something that's nice and loud without clipping, and it's just an isolated sound without fans in the background, without a car going by, then you're saving yourself so much work in your program just from making a little clean recording. So when you're on the field, you probably don't want to be listening back to everything. So, do your best to isolate the area and then take a few takes of it, because, who knows if you get back and one's going to have something weird happen. I've had the recorder, they give me some digital breakup sometimes, and if you take multiple takes, you're fine. So yeah, I'd say that. Try to get something loud, never clip it, obviously, and then try to have it as quiet as possible in the background.
Okay.
And take multiple takes.
Good. So at the beginning of this program, we played some of your track, and people got to hear the sounds. When I heard your track, I was particularly intrigued by this glass pad thing you had. So let's take a second and hear that. So tell us how you got this, and are you thinking about making this available to the masses?
Yeah, I'm not sure what format it'll be available in yet. And mostly I just want it to be easy for people. So if it's easiest for people just to get the samples and then they can put them into their sampler of choice, then I'll do that. Or if there's some contact preset, or I'll figure out a good way to do it.
Okay.
Right now all mine are in NNXT, which is the only reason people can use it. So, it doesn't help everyone. But what that is it's basically, maybe, I think it's 5 or 6 layers of doing the wet finger around a wine glass sound. And then we did that at different levels of water. So they're just going to be very slightly different in their content. And then tuning them in the program, making sure everything's lining up on a note nicely. And then I made a few patches where it changes like a normal sampler, where it's pulling just from the most related sample, and that didn't. It sounded like the same pretty much the whole way through, and so it wasn't exactly what I wanted. And so I actually overlaid them all and have one patch of a chorus, so it's 6 different wine glasses all going at once.
Right.
And one of the things I love about the Zoom H4n is that it is a stereo. So these are all stereo. They all have slightly different things happening in each side. And so 6 layers of that gives you this really cool depth. And then I also have one that's using alternates, where every time you hit it, it's playing a different one. So it just gives you a little bit of a sense that it's not just the same sample every single time.
Right. You throw that through some kind of digital reverb and you get this big...
Yeah. I used a lot of IRL, a lot of RV700.
That's the waves impulse response convolution reverb.
Yeah.
Good. Well, Jake, how can people find you on the internet?
The best way to find me, I am going to have a new release that will be on Spotify. I assume Spotify is really easy for everyone, so it'll be on Spotify under the name Athis, Atthis, and the album will be called Found. That'll also be on iTunes. That will be on YouTube. My website, if you want to get in touch with me personally, ask me any questions, pick my brain on anything, is jakeharrisonmusic.com. And I think those are probably the best ways to get a hold of me.
Perfect, man. Thanks for spending some time with us.
Yeah, and thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have our first visual guest here. So yeah, we'll put all the links in the show notes and maybe make some files available if he's agreeable to that. I can put him on the spot here, but we'll let you hear some stuff, maybe give you a couple of freebies and point you to his website.
Yeah.
All right? We'll see you next time on creativeaudioproduction.com. All right, I took this bike, and here are some samples I got from it. And here are some items from my kitchen. All right, so get out there, record something with your iPhone or other device, and put something together. Let us know how it goes for you. Make sure to check the show notes, and we'll see you next time on
Creative Audio Production.